First ask by getting a sense of um, everyone getting the chance to look or review other teams' respective position statements or strategies. And if that's not happened at all, I mean, the most I can do, because so you have relatively a packed few hours ahead of you when it comes to the exercise. So we have to be very cautious of time. It's 8:34. So what could be done is the following, because I mean, you need to be aware of the respective teams and what they have been able to put together at least. And what I can do is draw out what we are doing right now, and then give you some time to go through that and then move on to other business. All right, so let's take it one step at a time. All right, so what are we doing? So the first step for the exercise right now is to be able to look at a bunch of situations that will be unveiled to you. I will just put this right here, but you need to have a, you can see the presentation in front of you, right? You have the file? Yeah, okay. So I'll tell you what are we doing. So this is going to be divided in roughly three parts. There are some scenarios that you are made aware of in a moment from now. Those scenarios are general events that have happened, let's say, over the last few months, hypothetically speaking. You need to be able to account for those events in context to what you are required to do as a team. There will be a requirement for now each country to have a set of representatives to work together with the delegates of other countries. Okay. And you would be working together in responding not just to just the events, but let's say on joint statements that would come out on specific things that will be expected out of you. So I'll put that in very clear terms in a moment from now. You have then time to be able to deliberate internally within a team. So for example, let's say there's a group of you which are representing South Korea. So then South Korea has some time to look at the situations internally, discuss who's looking at what, have a brief internal time. This is the time you can use to look at the statements of other countries as well and go through that briefly so that you have some sense of where other countries stand. And then move in with each representative working with the delegates of other countries. There's a deliberation time. There is enough of that deliberation time assigned to each one of you. And then there's enough of a writing time for a statement that would come out from that delegation before that is presented upon in the class by the end of the exercise. And we'll have some time for reflections and other things. So that is the way things will be drawn out for the next few hours, which is on the day of the exercise. How does this look like? All right. So with your permission, if everything is ready, nobody has any questions, we could just start with the scenarios right now, because I want you to be most aware of what the scenarios look like. Is that okay? Move ahead. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. I want you to just very carefully look at both of these pointers. As soon as you have read through this, you all need to respectively raise your hands so I know that you've read through it. All right, so it seems most of you have read through the two situations or scenarios that are put out. So, first of all, the information you have on both the scenarios is what it is as you see it. There is no background information or no supplementary document to be able to make any sense or interpretation of it. It's a landscape scenario. So that's the landscape in which you're all operating, okay, with these two situations that are put out. Let me move. Ikram, are you good? You've been able to take a look at it. And most of you guys, you might, for those who don't have their cameras open, there's ideally you have that switched on in the next 5 minutes. Okay, so let me move on. So what are we doing? Acknowledging these events in context to your respective position statement or brief, or assessing their larger impact on the nature of global climate cooperation arrangement or the ecological landscape. The UN, under pressure from the EU and US, convenes an emergency session which involves the following countries. That's all of the countries that are present in the exercise. To catalyze the developing world to deliberate on and issue the following plans of commitment. So there is an expectation for statements slash commitments to come out or emerge from this emergency session. Three of those are right below you. The first statement looks at setting specific limits to be set by nations for industries on tackling emissions, which are resulting in air, water, and marine population, particularly for developing industrial nations or developing countries. This is done for the same period of time in which the exercise is scoped out and for identified countries. The second is on indicators and monitoring frameworks that can be required to follow to assess these impacts. So specific limits and monitoring frameworks and indicators. The second statement looks at an economic plan, which broadly is going to facilitate investments in developing renewable sources of energy within identified countries. This could be one overarching plurilateral institutional framework, or alternatively, a plan for countries to work in partnership with each other. It could be alliances at a bilateral level, trilateral level, multilateral level, whatever that works out. But the plan is being facilitated or worked out for countries that are part of the exercise. And the third is a disaster response plan, which nations can address in context to any environmental disaster, including natural calamities for identified countries. So these are the three main things that you need to be able to come out with by the end of the deliberative exercise. Now, where and how this would work out is each country would have representatives which will work with the representatives of other countries. What is to be recognized is that in statement one, you have India, China, Brazil, South Africa, and Russia participating. In statement two, you have all of them, along with South Korea and Bangladesh. And statement three, again, all of the countries and Bangladesh and South Korea. That's because Bangladesh and South Korea have two representative members. So clearly you cannot be part of three statements, and the two of these are where you participate. So there are timelines. I'll talk through the timelines, but I first want to just understand whether the ability to look at the specific statements here, which you would be seeing in front of you, is clear, or if you have any quick clarifications on this. You could just turn off your hands, guys, for those, and you could just unmute and speak. So again, I'll just quickly repeat. There is a landscape scenario in which there are these two events that are mentioned. See those as things that are happening at the backdrop. Some are going to directly affect you as a country. Some are not going to directly affect you as a country, but just things that are going to happen around you. You're mindful of whatever international cooperation or multilateral effort you would take in some way would be affected by the nature of the environment you're working in. The statements we're talking about, you don't have to think too much around, oh, how many words are we looking at, or how many, what's the format of this? This is given the time that you have. What you have to really look for is concrete agenda points or bullet points emerging out from each of the representatives. So you can think, if you're looking at really as a ballpark figure, one side of a page or something like that, that helps you bring the perspective out. There are different timelines for deliberation. So there will be a couple of breakout rooms that will be created. One is just for teams internally. The other breakout room is statement wise, which is the teams that you will be working in with. So I'll do that very shortly in just a while from now. And the deliberation time, which is for the country to internally deliberate, would be roughly 15 minutes, which means that you should be able to be positioned to discuss some of the scenarios, what as a country you want to do. It's more about where as a country you stand, and then have some of the representatives working on respective statements. There is 60 minutes of time for deliberation, which is sufficiently long enough for countries to be in a position to discuss each of the statements. For when I say each of the statements, as in representatives are working on their respective statements in this period of time. There's a separate time given for writing, which is any statement writing and deliberation putting together in a working work doc, and uh, that period is roughly 45 minutes. And then we follow this with each statement being presented, where time roughly is for 10 minutes each for each statement. And that can be done collectively by the teams that are there. We'll have some reflections towards the end of the session. And that's how much of the scenario looks like virtually. Okay. I've had to tweak quite a few things, because a few things you cannot do virtually, which may not be under the scope of doing this right now. But I've tried as much as I could to ensure that you have enough time, second, enough space as teams to discuss things on your own and then work these out with others. Yeah, go ahead. Any questions, any clarifications before I start making these breakout rooms? I'm going to just also put this presentation on the drive so that you can all access this right away. Mhm. So put the presentation, which I was just sharing with you, on the drive folder. If you go on the policy simulation exercise folder, you will have that. There is a folder which is put for all your statement scenarios that can be respectively put in. I'm just sharing a link so that you have a parking space for all your statements ultimately. And that will be this link: scenario response joint statements. So that is what you would look like. Okay, so let me just create the breakout rooms first as a country. Okay, so India, Marta, Steph, and Carl, all three of you, right? So I'm gonna first create two breakout
Perfect.
rooms.
And Professor, just I sent an email yesterday, just to let you know. Well, 2 emails.
I saw your email, but what I want to know is whether you were finally able to get that up in
Yeah.
the, yeah, so that's fine. Till the time you were
Okay.
able to, yeah, I've taken
Thank
a note of that. Yeah, so room one is country-wise groups. Okay, I think there will be more than rule one. India. India will be Carl, Marta, and sorry, I'm just looking at who's the third person? Steph, right? Okay. Room two would be yeah, China. Who is representing China here? Des, Jonathan, and Shiana. Okay. So Des, Jonathan, and Shiana. Okay. Then you will have the third team, which is Brazil. So for Brazil, Francia, Luis, and Mary Pat, all three of you are in one, so one team. Add room. Then you have South Korea, Asia, Peter, and Ikram. Ikram, I have given you both because there are two Ikrams who have joined. So then you have South Africa. Oh, sorry. South South Africa is Asia, Peter, and Ikram. Sorry. Korea is Ellison. Okay. Then you have Bangladesh. Charlie. Russia, it will be Mackenzie, Katie, Rejma. Okay, so you have all the rooms that have been created. Okay, so Ikram and Peter, you could join the South Africa group, right? You can finish your internal deliberation time and come back. Then I can create the teams for each statement. You're all here, it seems. So you have to join your respective team. Peter and Ikram. Sorry? Ikram, your voice is not audible at all. I can't hear you. Yes, Peter, you need to join your team. Peter, can you hear me?
Hi, could I be re-added to the South Africa breakout room?
Yeah, you need to join the team. I've already added you. I don't know how to do it again.
Yeah, I don't see a button on my side for breakout rooms, unfortunately.
Yeah, because you, Peter, moved to assigned to South Africa, right? That's your
Yeah,
country? Okay.
yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yes, Elisana, have you been assigned to your team? You're on mute. You're on mute, dear.
Sorry, we just had a question from our group.
Yeah.
So right now we're doing the deliberation, right? The 15 minutes.
Yes, yes. And I'm just coming to each group to just share a small note. Yeah, so let me come into your respective team groups.
Okay, so we're
15 minutes to, as a team, decide what you want to do as a country, discuss things, because after this, you will break out to working with others. So everybody
Okay.
will come back after 15 minutes to the main room. I need to know which teams everybody is part of, and then I will create new breakout rooms for each
Okay.
state.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to go back to the room.
Yeah, I'll have to, I think, maybe assign you. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
You
I
can
can do it. I saw it. I'll just go back to it. Thank you.
Sorry, I just realized I was in mute. Okay, for statement one, anyone from Russia here? No. Oh, you are there. Yes, you guys are here. So Russia, who's working on statement one? You're an important country
I am.
happening. Yes, so Rajma, you're working on statement one. So I'm just gonna make a note of this because breakout room will be created accordingly. Okay. From South Africa, who's working on statement one?
I am. Ikram.
Okay. From Brazil, if we have anyone who's working on statement one. China from statement one. India on statement one. Okay. No one. Statement two. I'm just going by whoever is present. So statement two, who's working on statement two? From Russia. From Russia, statement two. Do we know who's working?
That was me.
Mackenzie, that's you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And statement two, South Africa, who's working on statement two?
Asia.
From Bangladesh, statement two.
Charlie.
Brazil, statement two. Who's working on statement two from Brazil? No one here. China, statement two. Who's working on statement two? Des. And China, statement one. Who's working on that from your team?
I am Shanna.
Okay. India, statement one and two, if you're here. Who's working on these? Oh, we don't have India yet. Okay. South Korea, statement two. Who's working on that?
That's me.
Elise. Okay. Statement three. Okay, just you could just mention one by one who's on statement three here. India. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Just unmute and just speak of your name. I can just quickly write. So Peter would be there from South Africa, I believe. And others, if you could just unmute
Jonathan.
it.
Shaina.
John. Shaina has already confirmed that she's working on statement two.
Oh, I thought it was 3, sorry.
Statement one. Shaina is working on statement one.
Yeah.
Statement three. Peter, Jonathan, who else?
I'll be on
Okay.
statement three.
Okay.
I will be on statement two as well.
Yes, okay. Anyone else, guys? Oh, I have 4 names already. Okay, one. So we don't have right now, which of the teams are not back? Brazil and India are not back, right? They're actually role-playing this perfectly well. Brazilians and Indians are usually late to things. Okay. Somebody entered in. Is that India?
Yeah,
India
India
is-
is here.
Yes, wonderful. Okay. I was yes, so who amongst you is working on statement one? I just need to know the names, guys.
It's me, Carl.
Okay. Statement two.
Mata.
Okay. Statement three.
Steph.
Okay, wonderful. I am now going to start creating the breakout rooms statement wise. Your deliberation time starts now as soon as those breakout rooms are created, and I'll keep entering at different intervals. So we'll take that ahead. Brazil will follow suit, so don't worry. I'm gonna ask maybe actually Brazil to come back in. I think Brazil is here. Okay, Brazil, from your statement one, who's working from your team on statement one?
I am. Maybe back.
Just can you spell your name, please, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Mary Pat is okay. That's
Yeah.
one. Okay, no, because I can only see one window at a time. Statement two, who's working on statement two?
That's me. I'm statement 2.
And statement three, that would be Francia, right? Okay, wonderful. So I'm starting now to create the breakout rooms, guys, for each statement, and your time then starts then. I'll be coming then to each breakout room at different intervals. Okay. The let's Hey everyone, how are things going? I did see one statement that came through from the folder that is shared. So I think that is Ikram, Mary, your team, right? What was the experience of working on this? I mean, we're waiting for others to join. How did you approach this
Fun.
as a team? Let us
To be honest,
break this down.
it was very fun.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
some
The most fun you can
China.
have.
Yeah.
The most fun you can have in times like these,
Yeah.
while being in the comfort of your home and
Yeah.
okay.
I think the
Wonderful.
idea
Yeah.
of it was a bit daunting, and a bit intimidating. Like even reading about it on the syllabus, like I was kind of nervous the whole semester a little bit about this, not sure if I would be able to contribute fine, but actually doing it and talking with the group, it was fine. It was okay. It made sense, and
I
I
think a
think we
lot
were
of times
prepared.
our own fears
Yeah.
amplify when it's something that you'd see as an unknown coming at your end. But I've always, I mean, simulations are things that I have now embedded as most of what I teach, independent of which course. And I've always seen that as a good culminating point for a
Yeah.
course at large, because it also brings, a lot of different conversations and discussions, not particularly relevant to everything that has been spoken about in class, but just being able to make sense out of situations and sort of discuss these with other perspectives from team members. And I mean, thankfully, when I've said this to the administration here, it's been a great class overall. I mean, given the fact that you have 5 weeks, 6 weeks of very intense lecture, reading, assignments, I think most students have done well to have survived that and sort of work together. But yeah, Carl, Shiana, Rechma, any thoughts, any reflections based on how you have sort of approached this, and it would be
Yeah, it
good
was
to
kind
hear
of
from you. Yeah.
was kind of the same thing. At first, I was kind of intimidated by this like exercise, but doing it, we saw that most of country, like we had a lot of common and we had the same approach. So it was really like fluid in the way that we did it, and it was really nice.
I hope people in diplomacy also see it that way, Carl. In the world.
For
Okay,
me personally,
okay.
it wasn't something new because I've done national model United Nations, so it's pretty much the same thing. But it was nice to represent a new country, different perspective, and yeah, I liked it.
Thank you, Rajma. How's it been for you?
Yeah, I think it was quite interesting having to defend your country's position, and it's a new process, but it was good, and I think the team was really helpful, and I think we finished a good final product.
I like how Mary has changed her name to Mary Packery Brazil. I like that. Good work. Okay.
I'll definitely forget about it, and then my next class I'll
No,
just.
no. This is good. This is good. Next class, there's no next class. This is where we end.
Yeah,
And
no, next class.
yeah, Ikram, great, wonderful. Okay, I will wait for just others to come in, and then maybe sort of begin. We still have a little bit of time, so let's give it a few minutes. Let me see what's happening in other rooms.
Rajma, what was your country?
Russia.
Russia. You guys go look at the document. If everything is okay, I can just convert it to the PDF and then, or do you prefer we do it after class? I don't know.
I'll take a look at it. I'm sure it's good.
I'll just put mine in the same format as your like point form.
Do we have? Yeah, the team here as well. Yeah, statement 3 is here. All right. So, Jonathan, Peter, Steph, how's it been so far for you guys? How did you find being
think it
part
went
of this, or what are you saying here? Okay.
Okay, we had a
Any-
joint statement and everything, so I think we're good to go.
How did the discussion go? How did you find it? Was
I'd
it
say it was
very
really
peaceful, very smooth, everything falling in place, just absolutely no
We had
contestations, let a war
issues.
happen, let the
Because
world
we-
burn, it's okay, we're gonna take it chill, we'll just get this done. We have half an hour of class left, and
It was definitely more chill, but I think it was also a little bit of a struggle because there are many different country sizes and different countries were affected by natural disasters to varying degrees, right? So we were trying to form this coalition, but then we were like, okay, who's going to benefit the most from this coalition? Who's going to contribute the most to this coalition? And some countries came in with like already preconceived notions of what they were willing to contribute, which we had to work around a little bit. So it was interesting.
did you see more converging or competing interests at play? In
Converging.
the way more converging. Okay. Okay, all right. Have you put this up, your statement up, whatever you have prepared on the folder? If you could. You've
Oh,
done that
sure.
already or no? You could just put that up right here, okay? And yeah, we just have the just a second. It's been a busy last what 24 hours, because I don't know if you guys know, but India got tariffed by the Trump administration, as usually many other countries are in the same boat. But
You
so
might
there
give
was a
it
lot
give
of
it a day. You never
media.
know. It might be something else tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
Who knows?
yeah. Well, he said there is a penalty coming, but there were a lot of media outlets, so I was like sort of half of the night responding to media briefings and stuff, because people are trying to make sense of how this may affect us. Yeah, wait just a second.
Excuse me,
We
Professor.
see if
We're trying to upload our statement, but I'm getting a message that we don't have permission to upload the doc.
oh really? Is that so? Because anybody should be able to do it. It does have editing rights open.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. It just says you don't have permission to upload to this folder.
Okay, just a second. Do you want to use this link? Just try doing that now and should be okay. But if not, otherwise just let me know. Okay, in the interest of time, I do want to sort of move on by taking our conversation to statement 1. So yes, if you would like to walk us through the statement and how sort of the team approached this, and anything else that you would like to sort of let the other teams know. The documents could be uploaded on the folder as well. I'm gonna just sort of close all the rooms now, which is the breakout rooms. Yeah. Yes, so we're good to go. Statement 1, team.
So I will start because we divided parts. So each one of us is going to talk about a part. I will start with the first part, which is air pollution. So the way we worked is we each thought about our priorities, the priorities for each of our country. And then we decided with which priority we can work with. And then if some priorities would require additional investment, China has offered very graciously to help invest in those solutions. So the first is air pollution. We thought that we would set national emission target with flexibility based on each country's resources and development stage. That's why we thought about coming up with a range. So we have a minimum and a maximum. This way we each have the possibility to choose the percentage that works best with our country. And we thought that for those emissions, we would target the high impact industries like manufacturing and transportation. The second thing we thought about is the phasing out of reliance on coal and invest more in clean energy access. Another aspect we thought about is we want to expand recycling infrastructure and making it accessible on community levels and household levels. We want to target more, like I said, industries that are more polluting, like textile. And also we wanted to target more chemical and industrial waste management systems, because that's, for us, that's the most, that's one of the priorities for all of us. And then to achieve those goals, we thought about promoting circular economy model by, for example, launching repair and reuse hubs for electronics, supporting local product life cycle management, and encouraging innovation in waste reduction. And the last solution we thought of is the use of digital waste tracking systems to monitor and manage recycling effectively. And that would move to water pollution.
Okay, so for the water pollution, we agreed that building water treatment facilities to clean waste before it reach our ocean and rivers is essential for all of our country. And our goal is to have only clear water being discharged through strong regulation and control on pollution. We agreed to set a flexible target instead of strict deadlines for reduction, since some of our country face conflict such as war or climate challenges. It's also important that the goals are adaptable, so they stay relevant and achievable like throughout the process, and each country can focus on progress within their own unique circumstances. And another key point for us was to stop the illegal dumping of waste. Countries should enforce clear penalties for illegal disposal, limit the dumping of unrecycled material, and be transparent by sharing data on waste management effort. And we also thought that in case of emergency, we should have a solid waste management plan, especially for water waste, to be able to respond quickly and prevent further pollution in the countries. And I will now leave the power for the marine pollution.
Perfect. So for the marine section, we agreed on a few points. So the first one being increasing recycling rates. And so we agreed to boost recycling by 50% by 2035. This would help reduce plastic and waste entering oceans. We also discussed establishing marine protected areas. So this would be a creation of a enforced or legally enforced by 2035, and this would help conserve sensitive marine ecosystems and biodiversity. The other point was combating overfishing. So this would be the use of seasonal fishing moratoriums and regulate catch limits to protect endangered species and overall fish stocks. And then the last point, or the before last point, was fishing quotas and licensing reforms. And so we specified here Russia and India would implement fishing quotas and licensing reforms to ensure sustainable fishing practices. And the last point was expanding sustainable aquaculture. So this would be promoting sustainable fish farming to help reduce pressure on wild fish populations. And we agreed on joint investment and research on that point. And I'll pass it to the next.
Sure. All right. So continuing, we discussed like how we can kind of monitor and measure these things. So the following indicators have been jointly agreed upon to assess the impact of climate change responses from the years 2025 to 2035. And it's been done in accordance with our Sustainable Development Goals and priority areas. So the first one is measuring the number of people affected by climate-related natural disasters and the national responses to mitigating risk and building adaptability for future potential natural disasters. So that kind of links back to our policy briefs about the potential natural disasters assessment plans. The second is measuring emission levels of greenhouse gases and air pollutants to identify high emission sectors within the country's context and inform targeted sector-specific strategies. And then the third is assessing the establishment and enforcement of marine zoning systems to monitor health of ecosystems and reduce pollution levels within the coastal and marine environments. And so together, these indicators are adjustable to each country's context and will guide the development of climate and social policies and investment priorities to achieve the national Sustainable Development Goals, while also remaining adaptable and somewhat flexible to potential changing environmental and political conditions, just in preparation within those 10-year scope. Thanks. So I'll pass it on to the next section.
Yes, and finally, for monitoring framework, we emphasize the importance of comprehensive climate and pollution monitoring through the establishment of climate monitoring institution that will serve as central hubs for coordinating climate and pollution monitoring across member nations and ensuring consistency and rigor. We also support the submission of comprehensive reports every 2 years that will be essential to ensure regular assessment, transparency of progress, and adjustments based on empirical evidence. And finally, advanced technologies such as digital waste tracking systems, satellite monitoring, and drones should be used to enhance real-time monitoring of air, water, and marine pollution. Collectively, these technologies will strengthen the accuracy, responsiveness, and enforcement capabilities necessary to address complex pollution challenges.
Okay, statement 2.
So I will be presenting for statement 2. I will be honest, it's a little bit less organized than group 1. So just kudos to group 1 for that one. So our group was thinking about the economic ways we would go about investing in green and sustainable infrastructure across these countries. What we first sort of came to the conclusion is that the best way to do this is to sort of reinstate the global, like shaking up the global order a little bit. So it's less worried about like Western hegemonic, I guess, international order, and shifting more towards like an alliance of these BRICS countries, including Bangladesh. South Korea was a little bit more of a wild card because of their long-lasting ties with like the West, including, you know, the US and all of their investment that they get from there. But basically, we thought the first step to be a trilateral agreement for hydropower signed by China, India, and Bangladesh. So this would ensure that they're shifting towards a more green, sustainable energy process, while also using China's, you know, wealth and resources to take a little bit of the burden off of, like, especially Bangladesh being a developing country with limited resources. South Korea ideally would also enter into a foreign direct investment deal with Bangladesh. They would be offered, you know, the opportunity to grow and expand their companies and corporations for the sake of innovating green technology. This would ideally help with the like pollution issues because China and India have rivers that run into Bangladesh. This would help sort of find a sustainable way to clean up so that the hydropower is more feasible, more sustainable. Then also with Russia having been bombed, nuked, we were thinking Russia is one of the biggest exporters of coal. They export really predominantly to India and to Brazil as to really, like, they import a great amount of coal from Russia. Instead, South Africa could sort of fill the void left by Russia as Russia focuses on sort of repairing that internal issues that they now have going on. So the key investments, like for the economic side, we were thinking China would lock in 20% of all future hydro energy holdings for the next 100 years, similar to the port deal that they had recently made. I think it was in Bangladesh. South Korea would also now have a tech foothold in Southeast Asia, strengthening their power and their reach over the region. And South Africa secures far more revenue from coal. While we understand we want to move away from coal in the long run, this would help fill that like economic void that Brazil and India would otherwise be facing with Russia now sort of out of the picture. We would also want foreign direct investment from India to Brazil. This would incentivize Brazil to invest in like green renewable energy means. And not only would that help with, I guess, the overarching goal of sustainability and environmentalism, but also help expanding jobs and innovating like green tech. And not only that, but now India would also have a foothold in South America, which would sort of help strengthen that geopolitical bond that we're looking for when we're talking about sort of distancing from the Western hegemony. Then there's more. We were thinking that South Korea, while they're dealing with the sort of fallout from Japan's natural disaster, like it was mentioned that there was going to be lots of displacement, South Korea would probably not want Japanese refugees coming in just due to the historical tensions. So to mitigate those effects, they would send humanitarian aid to save face, but South Africa would likely take on a lot of the refugee issue with like understanding that it would be a short-term process. Japan is usually good at rebuilding. Looking back at the 2011 tsunami, they did a really good job of sort of coming together and rebuilding infrastructure really quickly. So South Africa would temporarily fill the gap, which would also help them geopolitically and broaden their reach across that eastern region. I think we're almost there with the Indian investment in Brazil. This would also help South America sort of emerge as, like, you know, Brazil has a lot of power. They're one of the most developed South American countries. This would ensure that they sort of help reinforce the BRICS power within that region. India would also grow as far as their green infrastructure and development, which would be helpful. And I think at the end of the day, Russia is just kind of trading resources for survival at this point, with the understanding that they're still in an ongoing war. They're still sanctioned by a lot of the West. We were trying to do a little bit of research into like what nuclear fallout would actually really look like. It's kind of hard to say. But like if we're thinking like permafrost melting, like all of that stuff, like eliminating land that we could have otherwise used for natural resources, we would be put in, like I say we, I'm Russia, would be put in a pretty bad situation with really limited power as far as the international economic stage goes, which is why South Africa is sort of stepping up to fill that void with monetary help from China. So I guess the end goal is to sort of help regulate Western influence while also ensuring that we are strengthening BRICS ties and expanding BRICS outside of how it is now by the inclusion of South Korea and the inclusion of Bangladesh. So that was, I think that's all we had to say, but if anybody else is remembering anything that I'm not, feel free to jump in.
Yes, Steph, please. Okay. Statement 3. Let me just, and then.
So we're also a bit less
organized.
organized than statement 1, but yeah, I've been charged with speaking for us. If I miss anything, hopefully my teammates will chime in. So in recognition of the increasing frequency and severity of natural and man-made disasters, as well as their inevitably transnational impacts, we will be establishing an international disaster resilience coalition between our countries. The main principles of this coalition will be annual monetary contributions to an emergency response fund, an early warning information sharing framework for disasters, provision of direct assistance in accordance with each country's specializations and resources, and the creation of an intergovernmental organization to coordinate our responses and manage the fund and its release. We've agreed on 7 particular points of concern, each of which will be the focus of its own community within the organization. These are 1, advanced warning, preparedness, and in-kind and technical contributions. 2, food security. 3, displacement and housing. 4, energy export. 5, medical intervention. 6, search and rescue. And 7, post-disaster reconstruction. In order to promote knowledge sharing and acquisition between constituent countries, each member is required to participate in at least 3 committees. To respect the diverse economic strengths of our constituent countries, financial contributions will be pegged at 0.02% of GDP to start with additional payments equivalent to 10% of all environmental fines levied domestically towards private companies. Withdrawals for each individual disaster event will be capped at 15% of the reserve's total value, so as to ensure our ability to keep providing support in the long term. The organization's governance board will meet biannually to discuss matters relating to the fund's continued management, maintenance of the coalition's shared disaster monitoring platforms, and disaster preparedness level. Further emergency meetings will be convened in the event of a man-made or natural disaster. In closing, we believe that a cooperative, multipolar, and inclusive approach is key to building resilience in the face of climate and man-made disasters going forward.
Okay. Any other observations from statement 3 team? Anything on the committees that have been established? Because you have like 7 committees that are mentioned. Anything that you'd like to talk about? How sort of you thought about these committees, or where did there's mentions about chairs and members? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, we started first by making a list of each country's strengths, and we had everybody talk about like the strong points and what their countries could most efficiently contribute to disasters. And each country had a different area of expertise, and so then we thought that, okay, well, these are the 7 main points in disaster response that we think are valid, but also we think that requiring each country to contribute something to each category might seem a bit unfair if they just don't have the knowledge or capacity in certain categories. So that's why we set a limit, our minimum of 3. A country could participate in all 7 if they have the capacity to do so, but we would require at least 3 of these committees to be participated in. And then if a country we thought, let's say only has the capacity to participate in 2, then it would be like the onus of that country to develop, skills and capabilities to contribute to a 3rd. That was the rationale behind the different committees.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so let me just take, oh, sorry, I think, did Carl have anything? Yes, so I do want to just take the last sort of 10 minutes talk. I mean, so I want to sort of, first of all, thank all of you for participating in the exercise, and let me at the very least make sure that we have a small little, I don't know what, picture or something which just sort of puts into, this is one of the few times that I could see also everyone together at the same time. But the idea of this exercise and the kind of evaluations you've seen throughout the course was built around, let's say, 3 I's, identity, ideas, and interests. Identity meaning if you're put into situations of reading more about countries from the perspective of representing them, you start assessing, evaluating things very differently. Your interests change, your ability to come or contribute at a global, regional, or even international platform on different ideas would change. The previous exercise that you might have seen, which was the group presentation exercise, was on context, historical sort of roots of colonial past, and basically in a very contemporary sense, getting an understanding of a nation's own capabilities and how do you assess that. In any discussions on political economy, degrees of state intervention will be built upon these factors, your capabilities, the context in which you're operating, and how your institutions have faced a historical precedent of some level of colonial past or experience that has, in a certain sense, if not prejudiced, but shaped your current or contemporary thinking. And it cannot happen unless you're put into spots of representing or understanding how fluid the question of identity is. I mean, most conflict in the world today is built around this sort of understanding of identity from a narrow national focused focal point of attention, where maybe your knowledge or awareness of one country or one homogeneous entity from a cultural standpoint, from a sociological standpoint, is dominantly more in terms of your awareness as against another group. I mean, the whole point of education is to be able to widen that horizon of that narrow perceived. So if you would have seen that with every different country you were representing, the idea was as much as possible you would operate from the context of that country. Of course, even if those who actually belong to a particular nation do not necessarily know much about the country and its own past, that's true as well. But the objective here of some of these evaluative measures was to at least address those voids or gaps which are possible in scenarios like this. The other critical point which you would have anticipated and seen was to understand the future in which some of these countries would operate. So a lot of the planning you were doing, particularly for this evaluation, was futuristic in terms of the kind of interventions you were thinking about. Disaster assessment or relief or plan is no longer something which is limited to domain experts who come with that knowledge and experience. it's very intersectional in nature. There's involvement of public health, education, many aspects, nutritional access get affected when there are calamities that are now rechanging both, processes of urbanization, migration, displacement, and those are subjects and topics which are unfortunately not addressed or given the mainstream focus because they're not disciplines by their own. You don't have migration, for example. Migration can be studied in context to just so many areas and disciplines. That was international law. You could look at international refugee law. You could look at sociological aspects of migration, the economics of it. But the context in which migration happens are varying and changing over time. So the perspective here was to, as much as possible, give that background orientation to look at a different country, understand it from a different identity, context, its own sort of strategy of where it may want to work and operate. The introduction of crises today is more so operating or letting countries operate under the backdrop of events that are happening. It's always the case that there is some crisis somewhere in the world which will have, in some sense, a direct or an indirect impact on your way of thinking. So to not think in terms of insulated models, but also expand that purview by being aware of the crisis scenarios in which you would respond to situations. There is no objectively good or bad metric to evaluate how you would come out of this. And I think it's important to understand what is critical is the process and the time and the effort you're putting individually and as a team is what is very critical. And it's evident from what you produce, what you share, what you talk about, whether it is in your recordings, whether it is in a discussion, whether it is in the breakout rooms, all of those goes into the way we understand this. So I want to thank all of you. I want to also take a moment to acknowledge and very gratefully present this sort of last few weeks of amazing interactions and a lot of learning for me as well. I'm back in India just 3 days from now, and I start teaching back home as soon as I get there. And so I know that the teaching experience, and I met the dean recently and chair of the department. I was expressing this, and I said that to some of the students earlier, that this was by far one of the most, I would say, engaged groups throughout the course. And I know that for some of you, there was a lot of pain involved, but all in good time, because when you're done with it, when you're getting out of it 3 months, 6 months down the line, you would probably see a lot of things adding value in context to how those discussions added up. The readings are all accessible to you. You can always go back into some of these texts as and when you want. I'm pretty much accessible in order to stay connected. So if there's anything at some point of time you guys need to get in touch about, not just India related, but generally happy to help. So with that, I would probably bring this to a close. If you have any final thoughts, reflections, it would be nice to hear. Otherwise, yeah, I think we're right on time. 11:20 is good. So any final thoughts, reflections for the class and for your own group mates would be nice to hear. Thank you.
Just wanted to say thank you, Professor, for the course.
Okay, thank you. Wonderful. Marta, please go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
I also want to say thank you for the course, and I did also have a quick question about the last assignment for the book review. I
Review?
know, yeah, the last assignment that's due on August 5th. I know we already got our grades back for the chapter review. I was wondering, is that something that we use to base off of the rest of the assignment, the final
So
assignment,
this
or
was a query. This was a query which was raised. I think it was actually raised this as well.
Yes.
okay?
Sorry. So here is the thing. See, your chapter review was important for two perspectives. One, I wanted to get a sense, how do you review stuff? If you're basically reading, how do you get a sense of reviews? A review is not a summary, as I've already mentioned. It is not your opinion on a text. You need to take a perspective that the author writes about, or an idea that an author talks about, not some grand idea, but a set of ideas or a set of arguments, and then provide a critical perspective on it, right? Your end-term review would be wide, more encompassing in nature. Chapter reviews are looking at select chapters. So you will definitely have certain overlaps and things that you may want to build upon. And it's completely okay, unless and until you don't indulge in self plagiarism where you're just citing yourself and repeating it yourself, you're okay. But the idea is your end-term book review, as more journal academic book reviews do, are critical responses to a text, to an author. There are conversations which are not just operating in the author's universe, but you're making out what has been written on some of those ideas or subjects which others have written, and you made an effort to engage with that as well. It could be any 1, 2, or 3 things that you're writing about within the limit of what you have. You don't have to sort of go into back and forth with the entire text and its volume all the time, but pick off on those central key themes and then write about those. So that's the sort of feedback, in fact, I was sharing with each one of you when we were having that discussion. Sometimes what happens, and I think it might be a good time to do this, which is just to sort of give you a perspective of a general set of pointers that often tend to help. In social science, there's a lot of emphasis on critical engagement. Sometimes critical engagement as a first step is very helpful for a deconstructive diagnostic exercise. You're diagnosing things, you're interpreting what you're reading. And in doing that, you're trying to take a view where you're positioning yourself and you're entering with what you know already. And it's a good entry point, but it's very important, and I've seen this as a big problem amongst peers and scholars as well, a lot coming out from disciplines, that there is often a tendency to remain too identified with the critical deconstructive lens for a very long time without building upon it. You want to take that critical perspective ahead and see where you want to add value on a particular subject or topic. Now, this is independent of whatever you're doing. You might sort of work in a field which is very different from what you're reading right now. But in an academic exercise of any reading, writing that you're doing, critical perspectives are very important, where you don't become cynical of things, you don't become too opinionated, but at the same time, you're trying to sort of draw out your own interpretations based on what is already there. But take that forward. Again, for the review, avoid over summarizing the text. I think this is something which I have generally cautioned reviewers in the past, but I think with this class, when I was reading a chapter review, I saw most of you did not enter in that trap. So you were all fine. Most of you were all fine. And unless and until I might have specifically pointed something out. Presentations, few things that you might always think about: keeping text on slides to be less, keeping your voice in the presentation more. It's good, yes, of course, when you do things virtually, to have video on where people can actually see you, get a sense of what and how you think. Homogeneity in too much of thought and content and pattern can be broken, I think, with each slide. That's where a lot of design tools are available, which you can use sometimes when you're using PowerPoints and things like that. And see what, as a team, you can produce in terms of ideas or core arguments on any topic that you're working together. I think it's very important as a team that you bring perspectives from everyone when you're trying to plan things ahead of time. I know that it is never easy working in a team, but it's only, this is something which only gets done better with practice. If you're just suddenly thrown out at the deep end, it's not easy. And in the professional sphere of things, that may happen anytime, right? And it becomes very difficult for people to engage with others. So you understand what others are good at, what someone else can be very valuable, have those conversations, brings everyone on a common point, and then take that.
spirit forward. So I think with that, that is the more of the feedback that I had, generally speaking, because I remember in the last class, I couldn't sort of talk about some of these points in a general sense, but individually I've done that already. Okay, great, wonderful. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor. Bye.
Thank
you.
you. Bye.